Marketers of the world, why do we work hard to solve small problems? It's time to bring home bigger paychecks. It's time to create the lifestyle we deserve and to make a greater impact. This is the Fractional CMO Show, and I'm Casey Stanton. Join me as we explore this growing industry and learn to solve bigger problems. The Fractional CMO Show is sponsored by CMOX, the #1 company to teach you how to attract, convert, and serve clients as an in-demand fractional CMO. And I'm here with certified Google partner, Horizon Interactive Award winner, humanitarian, CMO for 2 nonprofits, CEO of CS Design Studios in Tucson, Arizona, my new friend, Wyatt Chambers. Hey, Wyatt, excited to have you on.
Hey, thanks. Nice to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm really stoked that you're on. And one thing that I really love about you is that you've got a successful agency. You've built this agency over the last few years, and you've got a number of people working for you. We were just chatting about how you have people in different time zones, kind of working at all hours, servicing your clients. And you've got this agency, and by all measures, you're successful. But what you decided to do, which I think is so interesting, is you decided to add fractional CMO services and kind of become a fractional CMO. So I'm excited today to kind of dive into that and see why you wanted to add fractional CMO services to your agency. But first, tell me a bit about the agency that you guys run.
Sure. I started in 2008, so it's been running for a while. I remember talking to people about Google paid advertising and websites way before people were even using Google on the paid side. Most people in Tucson were using Yellow Pages or traditional forms of marketing. So I was kind of the oddball in 08 and started to build my agency on just website design first. Okay. And
in 08, that was tough, man.
Yeah, it was.
That was a tough time.
Yeah, I think, looking back, I don't understand, exactly everything that went on and how it worked out, but it did, just people were moving from paper and traditional and over to digital. So it actually worked out well. And we ended up focusing more on the managerial side than the marketing side.
Okay.
So one of our earliest wins was a power company. And they canned their web developer in-house, and then it took it to us. We weren't calling ourselves an agency at the time, but we're like, hey, we'll manage your website. Right. And that kind of generated the revenue. So we started off in the management world, really, of managing people's websites as opposed to marketing them. Over time, we just kept adding to those services until, we adopted, hey, we're a digital marketing agency, right? We've been a Google partner way before they were calling it agency, they were calling it partner, or I forget what they called it in the beginning, but we were one of the first ones in Tucson.
Got it. Okay. So you decided that, the Tucson market's an interesting market because it's a subset of the Phoenix market.
Sure.
And was it big enough to sustain what you wanted for growth in your business?
Absolutely. Yeah. There was, there's 1 million people basically in surrounding communities in Tucson, but there was enough diversity in business to where everybody had a website, even though it was mediocre in 08. I moved from being a Flash guy. I do a little Flash websites, which I loved Adobe Flash. It was great. All the movie websites were built in Flash. I think that's what attracted me to it.
Sure. But those great intros.
Oh yeah. I love those intros. We do intros, but back at that time, we were actually creating vector websites in Flash that could load quicker than a lot of your content management sites today because we were optimizing for dial-up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that, I'd use XML to call objects in and out of a movie. That's what we called it.
Okay.
But the problem with that was there's no SEO to it. How do you index pages in a movie? You don't. But it was very advanced for the time where, I could load in video elements or pictures, right? With a choose your own adventure kind of an interface. And it worked out really good at the time.
So you're this agency owner, you're there in 2008. The housing crisis is just happening. It's kind of an awful time in the market. And you decided that the one thing that everyone has and wants is a website or an improved website. So you focus on that and you're playing with the tech du jour, which is Adobe's Flash. And then something happened, you continued to grow past that. So what was the breaking point from just website build to a more full featured agency?
I think, when business owners were coming to me, they're like, yeah, new website's great, but what we really need is leads. We need business. We need this to do something for us other than having a brochure website. Do you do that too? And so that just got the wheels turning. And, the residual concept of, hey, I onboard this client. I'm going to take care of them. They don't need to have in-house people. And we're going to take care of a service, right? Provide leads. We're going to provide calls. We're going to provide activity on the website. That turned itself into a marketing role. And so, I look back and like, I didn't know that's what I was doing. It was just taking care of the needs of the customer. And
Yeah.
that's how we ended up here anyway, where agency to now you're talking about a whole different service going into the CMO world. So anyway, it's just, yeah, now it's kind of developed.
So it's interesting. So just because you kind of got your way into working with clients, the client said, "How can you be more useful to us? Can you do this thing that matters to us? To you as a website that mattered. To them, it's actually growing their business. So now you're aligned with them. So you start doing what? You're a partner of Google, so you're running Google ads. Are you focusing on SEO? Are you building out kind of just a general outbound and inbound marketing campaign?
Yeah, all the above. I mean, we started in the paid world, right? From the beginning, I was managing Google paid advertising. And then that naturally progressed into SEO. Well, how do you rank in the SERPs? Right. And then you have the SEM world, which we know now for local Google business is all GMB, Google My Business
Right.
optimization. So you have a lot of things doing this. At the end of the day, I don't think really business owners care about rank as much as they do about their phone ringing.
Right.
So, those strategies, a lot of people that say they can do that, tout it. And then when you look at what they provide, there's no substance to it, or there's a big cloud, right? Well, how did you achieve that? Well, I don't know. We just did all these different things.
Or are you saying that Wyatt's number one secret to success is actually helping people?
I would say that, our core value is humility, and learning is constant. The learning and how this market is changing is incredible to me.
Yeah.
That's how I get. I ended up in your group, Casey, is I'm looking for people that are doing it, that are successful at it, and know more than I do. And I think I found that group. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks. And okay, so this is interesting to me. In your agency, in the traditional agency model, you hired someone to be a strategist. What happened when you hired a strategist and you put them on accounts? Because ultimately, what you must have as an agency is you have to have someone who can like uncover new work, right? Otherwise, you just like build a website and it's done. But you want that client for life. So you installed a strategist, you hired that person, and then what happened?
Yeah. The strategist came in and, I've had multiple ones that would do pieces, but I had a strategist come in and I realized that, that strategist was what we call a superstar, somebody that should be, that's really an entrepreneur themselves,
Hmm.
kind of help them along the way. And I have another situation going on. The same thing right now is I have basically an entrepreneur that's working within the confines of the company that I started. The problem that ends up happening is you can't have multiple people running the show.
Sure.
You can only really have one person guiding the ship. And I think that, I'll be able to pick that out quicker, sooner, in the future, and not really rely on that individual to run the company in a way towards the marketing side, the CMO side. So that was kind of a lessons learned. I don't look back and not upset about it. I think it's just one of those things where that's part of the learning process.
Yeah, certainly. And there's a risk to give someone that authority inside the organization to be the person who's kind of calling the shots. And ultimately, what that person left the organization?
Oh,
Or
yeah, the first one did, essentially I let them go. But I encouraged them. I said, look, you need to do this for yourself.
yeah,
So I got a text back from this individual saying, hey, thank you for doing that for me. Thank you for pushing me in that direction.
yeah,
I took that as a compliment. Now I have a couple of people that are doing what I've, shown them how to do certain things. Now they're doing it for themselves. So it's kind of bittersweet. I would consider them almost, I hate to use the word competition, but you end up creating peers in the same space that are in the same pond, So
yeah.
yeah, I'm just having to change the way I viewed what was happening there and understanding why it happens and how to insulate so it doesn't happen again. Cause there's a big, it creates inner turmoil. So I'm trying to avoid that in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you've got this agency. You've kind of attempted with different levels of success of installing like a lead strategist. And now where we sit is you have a very successful agency. By no means do you need to move to a fractional CMO role, but you've chosen to. I'm curious why. Why do you want to, what could kind of maybe feel to some agency owners listening as a step down? Why are you stepping or sidestepping you're in the CEO space and then you're also the fractional CMO for clients?
Yeah, I think that just stems from wanting to help people do well at what they do, right? Well, I want to understand every single piece of it to be able to approach in that way that I know business owners don't. A lot of them, at least in my customer base, do not have somebody facilitating that role. They're not doing that. And what we've been doing has been a small piece of it. I wanted to help out even further. Now I can't help everybody. There's only one Wyatt, and I'm gonna have to pick and choose who I work with in this capacity. But I want to come in and have a framework and a methodology to doing it, to helping somebody to success. That's the value that I saw coming this direction. And then also having a peer group, where
Yeah.
like one of the last peer groups that we had, we were talking about different technologies, stuff
Right.
that I'd never heard of.
I got schooled on it too, man.
Got totally schooled. It was just amazing to me that some of the people in this group are playing at that level where, wow, I don't think I'd ever come across that in the Tucson market, but right now I could, think about it, right? It does exist.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, um, let's talk about like brass tacks. What happened to your clients in the agency space when you feel like you helped them a little bit, but there was more help that they needed? What's that difference? Like, were you just building landing pages and they just needed their whole marketing kind of strategy laid out? What was it?
I'll give you an example. I got one client that I'm going through the CMO process right now. And when I approached him before, I said, hey, here's our offering. They didn't take the offering from the digital marketing agency side. This was over a year ago. Then I sat down with him. And I said, look, we're doing something different. This is the role I want to play in your organization. You don't have a chief marketing officer. And obviously, whatever you're trying to pull off, you're doing yourself or you're having your employees do it. And they don't have the visibility. They don't have the knowledge. This stuff you're going to have to learn over time. How about speed that up?
Mm,
Wouldn't you like to speed that up? And wouldn't you like to have, everybody loves the word KPI in the business world.
right.
What are your key performance indicators? How are you going to generate success? And then, I really appreciate the asset audit questionnaire where you're getting down to how much do you want to make? Having that kind of like
Such a killer question. As the executive, the CEO of the company that you're working with, how much money do you make right now and how much do you want to make? I'll make that dream come true. Don't tell me to double your company. Tell me to double your profitability, your take home. We can figure that out. Right.
right. That's
Very
right.
different conversation.
It's a different, I think, like I really identified with videos that you had created for your own, why get involved in this program. And one of those questions I think you asked is you want to know that so you know how to guide them. I thought I would be offensive asking those kind of questions. And now it's like, no, you're asking for the authority to play that role in their organization.
Mm.
It's a total different, playing a vendor versus playing, hey, I'm on your team, right? Whole different role.
You would never go to a cocktail party and be like, hey, nice to meet you, Wyatt. How much money do you make?
Yeah,
Right. But when you work with the CEO and your job is to make the CEO successful, you have to know these personal details. I also love to ask them, how many hours a week are they working? And then they always lie to me. Oh, like 30 or 40. And it's like, bullshit. You responded to my email on Saturday and Sunday. So you're working more than that. How many hours are you working? And I'm like, okay, probably 60 all in, maybe 70.
yeah.
And your job, if you just like make their life easier by removing maybe some of the marketing stuff from their head and you own that in totality, that frees them up to kind of elevate on their own role, solve bigger problems and generate better results for the company at large while you do the same on the marketing side. Is that what you're finding?
That's right. Yeah, you're taking up that level of responsibility in that marketing segment. And I think that that's when I'm going through this process, and I think that I told you I got 3 that I'm working on right now. And they're wanting, hey, where's my functional plan right now? I said, well, it takes time to work on that. Let's get through the questionnaire first. So I'm in this process of learning all these pieces and trying to wrap my arms around it, but I'm having a good time doing it too. So, I like the journey that I'm on right now to be able to play this different role that I haven't been in for a long time, as far as going back to working directly with, a potential business to take them to the next level.
Yeah, and you're good at it. I mean, before this call, you said that you're what, the CMO for a couple companies? I
Yep.
mean, this is like it's kind of like your stupid human trick is to be a really good marketer, right?
Well, I would say that I want to get better at what I do. And I think like any craft, you gotta, keep practicing, right? So
Yeah.
I think what's nice is you come into the different organizations. I know that the goal is to niche out, but one of the things that I'd share this thing is I've been in every niche since the
Mm.
beginning. I never
Yep.
went.
Service-based businesses, yeah, direct to consumer.
I've been in every single niche, and I'm like thinking, well, this is a niche. I'm going to be a fractional CMO. That is my niche. I'm going to play that, and not that I have to do it only for attorneys or do it for service industry or whatever. I'm going to pick and choose who I want to work with from a standpoint. Do I like working with them?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it,
great.
it and that is my niche. I want to work with people I want to work with and have a good time doing it. And their problems become my problems. I mean, it's part of what we do. And it's fun when you can plug different things in and get the results that you want. And then it's also equally frustrating when you can't. So,
Right.
like one of the problems I brought to the group was, hey, B2B. How do we generate leads for B2B in the tech segment? Super saturated market. And you got some big players that are in that market. How do you compete with that?
Mhm.
And I think one of the cool pieces you gave me early on was, hey, here's a way to get information on people that are already visiting your website. So let's
Right.
remarket to them.
Yeah.
That was huge. That was huge. That was huge.
Yeah, and this wasn't standard like, Google Ads remarketing, right? This was like new, inventive, creative, and you're right. I think that it's a huge, huge thing. Even for the clients that I serve, that was an enormous win. That one
Oh yeah.
thing.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so one thing that is kind of coming up for me is this idea that to go back to the agency model, like when you work with companies and you go do your thing,
Sure.
you're a full stack marketing agency. You guys are doing ads, landing pages, tech stack, like all that stuff, copy, whatever. In order for that to be successful, there has to be a big picture vision. And oftentimes, marketing agencies or marketers are only really paid for the thing that they do, like running the ad campaign. But you can't run an ad campaign if there isn't a landing page. But to have a landing page, you first have to have a website and then also an offer. And then you have to have like your form submit somewhere and then have a follow up sequence. And like, while the company might say, I want to hire an ad company, right? They want to hire an agency that does ads, you know how much is required. And I've just seen this happen so often for agencies that they give away the strategy for free and they support here and there as they have to, just so that they can do their job, which is run ads. Have you found that as well? That in order to do your job, you kind of have to give a little bit more than you're kind of being compensated for?
Oh yeah. I would say that I've given so much strategy, how to do things, just wanting to help people out. Even out, just to build a reputation, you
Right.
know. And I think that that's one of the aha moments that I had is, oh, you can bill for that. And
Right.
this is what you can do and what that looks like. When you were talking about doing a half day, I tried to squeeze my first one into 1 hour.
That's so short. A half day consult in 1 hour. No way.
I could try to get to, squeeze into 1 hour. And I got to page 6.
Right.
But, here's the thought, when you kind of test the system and it doesn't go as well as you think, you're like, well, no wonder why it's a half day session,
Right.
you know? And even, having like a little ADHD now where I'm always going fast, your customers don't think like that. A lot of them don't. So
Right.
I'm impatient trying to get through the process. I'm like, no, you need to slow down. And I think what it does when you go through like the questionnaire is you're caring enough to ask all the questions about their business, even if it's not marketing related. You're at least bringing it all in so there's understanding as to what they're trying to achieve. A lot of good questions there that I think it establishes that rapport and reputation, right? So,
Totally. And then, like, think for a moment, like a CMO, we talk about fractional CMO. And really, fractional CMO is for the subset of the market that doesn't need a full-time CMO. But kind of to everyone in that company, you're the CMO. You're not the fractional CMO. They don't know that. Uh, you know, anyone who's ever worked at a company that has a lawyer at it, that might not be a full-time staff lawyer. That might be fractional, outside general counsel. But it's still your lawyer. It's still the lawyer that you think of. So in that way, a CMO would never come up with a marketing strategy that didn't consider the sales team, that
Right.
didn't consider product, right? But as an agency who's only compensated on the success of an ad campaign, you kind of can't invest the time to solve that huge problem of landing pages and follow-up sequences and sales calls and all that stuff. But the CMO is given that time and space and that opportunity so you can actually be more successful. And you talk about building a reputation by giving some stuff away for free. And I think, leading with love and supporting people is definitely the way to go. And if they don't have someone quarterbacking that, if they don't have someone who's like leading the charge on that, who's speaking the language and really building the team for it, as well as I do, they're just not going to get it implemented, right?
That's right. That's right.
It's just an idea. It's just, yeah.
I think what you're saying is you're having a higher relationship with your client, higher tier. And the last thing that I would say on the agency model is you don't want to be treated like a vendor. Right? It's like, well, I paid for a hamburger. Where's my hamburger? And I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is not saying that we're being treated that way, but I'm ready for a higher tier relationship with the existing clients that I've had over a decade and bringing more value to new ones that are coming in.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm sitting down with them and pre-qualifying them to see is this going to be a customer I'm working with in the next 10 years? Are they going to be somebody I want to keep working with? It's almost like it becomes a qualifying, which we are qualifying clients at this point. We don't take everybody, and there are ones that just don't make sense. So I like the fact that this is taking it down to a better relationship model. And you're getting more integrated with their success. And I like where that model is taking it.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And as you think of these bigger companies that you're getting into, your vision is I think really interesting. The quality of the companies that you're going after to be a fractional CMO for are significant companies, right?
Sure.
Like these aren't just small mom and pops, which are fine. Like smaller companies are great. And someone who just wants kind of an easy role as a fractional CMO can have a couple of those. They can pay well. They can make their, six figures, healthy six figures. But what you're talking about doing here, I think is really novel because you're kind of cleaving your way into a larger business that would throw away just a general agency proposal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They don't want an agency, even though that might be the solution. So how is that a little different for you?
I'll give you an example. I got one that I'm working on right now. I'm going to go visit with. I've already got my questionnaire back. Now I'm coming back and meeting with basically a general manager of one of 66 branches in the United States. They control $2 billion in revenue for payroll.
Amazing.
So I've already been doing this with the chief marketing officer from a standpoint of, this guy's going to make me look bad.
Okay.
So my goal is not to make the chief marketing officer look bad, but if you talk to the branch, how many leads are you getting? This from
0
mothership, right? So there's an opportunity to go, look, let's run this, what we're going to do here in Tucson in this branch, generate some success, and then we can roll it out further.
Yeah.
And so I there's an example of a big whale. I think that whatever we do here, it'll probably get mimicked all the way out through the rest if we have success with it. I like that challenge. That's a great challenge. It's a B2B challenge, but I can tell their Google game is not there. Their LinkedIn game is not there. Their lead flow is not there. So there's opportunity where I don't have to be that aggressor from a corporate level. Let's start at one piece at a time. I got another one, which, they've got an awesome business and they're in the fitness category. That's where you came from, right?
Yeah. Health and fitness is a niche that I've loved. Yep.
And I looked at your diagram. I'll probably change it up a little bit, but it's the same kind of a model. And I'm excited about that, where you can go in there and I think he's between just past the $1 million mark. be
Right.
great to take him to the five. How do you do that? How do you get him to $5 million? Well, there's a lot of different things we have to do. We'll set up the scorecards. We'll do all the things that you encourage and teach. So I'm looking forward to working that with them.
Yeah, that's super fun. And so an objection that I hear a lot, and that John on our team hears a lot, is people say, "I don't think I can actually do it. I don't think I can be a CMO. I don't have the experience." And it's funny, you're talking about this $2 billion payroll company, and you're talking about GMB, you're talking about basic lead gen stuff. It doesn't have to be rocket science to revolutionize a business. It has to be the basics executed right. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, you take, when you talk to a branch, they're not using Sales Navigator in LinkedIn. There's an example of, hey, they haven't rolled out a B2B.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I haven't rolled out I mean, Sales Navigator is like,
Yeah.
it's the first thing that you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Identify your targets.
Yeah. And you look at the reviews. They've even passed 50. Well, I don't think they got 20 reviews.
Oh my gosh. And all the reviews are bad because the only
No,
people that live are the people that are unhappy.
they're not bad, but I helped generate them in another breakfast group that I'm in. And that's how I met this gentleman. And there are, some highfalutin folks in there, and they're good people, but asleep. And even the big corporations are asleep to reputation sometimes, and we know reputation is your brand.
Huge.
And it's not just on LinkedIn. I mean, you think about other different places, Google, Glassdoor for, the HR side, all kinds of different engines that people are asleep and not really looking at those things. So I think the market is wide open, and we're seeing an exodus to this thing continue to grow. I mean, if I were to ask you, Casey, is marketing dead, or is that going away?
Right? No way.
Is AI going to take over? No,
It'll support, but it won't take over.
it won't take over. There still has to be thoughts behind that,
Yeah.
a direction from a strategy perspective. But
So I'd say that the lower level stuff, like if you want a copywriter, you can go pay a high price copywriter, or you can get one of these Jarvis or whatever AI copywriters. They're not perfect, but for a lot of companies, they're better than nothing. So we're seeing the bottom 10, 20, 30% of marketers getting cycled out by robots, which makes sense, right? We should see that when it comes to like repetitive labor at car manufacturing plants. You don't need a human to do that. A robot's more effective at that. So that pressure's there. And I think that there's also a pressure where agencies are going to see prices forced down because of offshore labor.
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, have you experienced that? Have you seen like,
I think what I see happening in the marketplace is people are going very niche specific. Yeah, it's very nice when somebody comes in. They're like, "Hey, all we cover is this kind of plumber or this type of, service that you're in or whatever," and they will tout it as the silver bullet. And I'm like, yeah, there's some good things to that. I'll give you an example. As a CMO for a pest control company, I took that pest control website from my own agency out to one of those niche providers.
okay,
Super slow. I mean, it's, yeah, I trade off one problem for another. Sure. The rank dropped. So even though somebody's in a niche doesn't mean they're going to be as good as a digital agency, or even
right,
if you found a resource that was good at it. Well, what I'll tell people is you can always pull in somebody that is from a big agency, but still a person that has to do the work.
yeah,
You know, there's a reason why you would go to a partner or somebody like us in a CMO world where, at this point, people in my team are schooling employees at Google because they're brand new.
right. Don't you love that? Hey, you want to talk to your Google ad rep? Absolutely not. I don't want to teach anyone anything.
Oh, good luck even getting on the phone with one of them. If you're an agency, we have a hard time getting a hold of Google. So,
You still, wow, that's wild.
oh yeah, oh no, there's no secret bat phone to Google. I mean, it, and then there's complicated problems. Especially when you move a company from point A to point B. I can only imagine what it'd be like to move multiple locations within the Google sphere.
Yeah, that seems real tough.
Yeah, if you don't have a professional handling all your citations, and you get stuck in this terminal loop with some of these postcard things, and that could cost companies a lot of money, especially if you can't change your phone number.
Oh, you mean the verification process?
Oh yeah, you change your phone number and you move,
Right.
imagine the value. Let's just say you had over 1,000 reviews. What's the value of 1,000 reviews?
It's significant. Tens of thousands of dollars for a lot of
What
companies.
if you lost all those reviews because somebody goofed up your Google move or your, it happens. I've seen it happen. So there's definitely things out there that knowledge is key, right? Having the right people in place that can handle a lot of things. But that's just one thing. I mean, there's so many parts of a working, what I call a digital sphere of marketing to make it all work. I think one thing that you mentioned that you had success with was handwritten letters.
Handwritten letters. Amazing. Just sent out like a couple hundred of them today. Literally today, we sent them out.
That's awesome, man. I want to hear that stuff because, I have clients that could benefit from that.
Yeah.
You have people that will use Valpak. Valpak might be an option.
Sure.
What's cool is when you run all these different campaigns in different markets, you see what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely. And I'm right there with you, especially when you work with companies as their CMO, the fractional CMO, and they have locations all across the United States or US and Canada, or even in Europe, just to see the response. Man, what I've learned about individual communities as a response to COVID, and which were more sleepy and which were more aggressive to kind of get back to business. And how CPMs have shifted, and like the intellectual kind of stimulation I think that we get as fractional CMOs is kind of second to none, because you're seeing it in a real way and you're the owner of it. And I just think it's just a ton of fun, instead of kind of doing what a lot of marketers do, which is marginal incremental improvement, same old, 95% of their work week is kind of the same old stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I think it was part and parcel of me also dealing with people that were appointed as a marketing officer that didn't have the experience. Have you ever run into those?
Oh man.
And
I could write a book on those people, right?
they're good on Facebook and suddenly they're the chief marketing officer. I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't work that way.
Right. Hiring a 21-year-old and overtitling them. I think overtitling, like if I wrote a short story, it would be called Stop Overtitling. Like that person runs hiring. They're not your HR person. That person does some operation stuff. They're not your COO, stop it, because you're going to have to overpay them and they're not qualified for the work.
Sure. And then I've had circumstances where I've worked with marketing agencies where I've been the vendor for them. So you're a third tier in that wheel to the customer.
Yeah.
I quit doing that 10 years ago. Like, so you're going to own the relationship and take a cut on me and then convolute the communications where all the stress coming to me, that didn't work either. So I quit doing that too, where I don't like typically working with marketing agencies.
Sure.
So now coming in with the title of a CMO, it's like, hey, you don't really need that now. Now there might be something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can you differentiate, like, as you think of working with these clients,
Sure.
The difference between when you bring in your own agency and when you wouldn't? Like, what do you think the ethical line there is? Because sure, like at some level, you can make a lot of money by bringing your own agency, but is that always the right thing to do?
Well, I think what's nice is, and this is what is happening in this natural evolution here, is I go in, I say, look, CS, my company I started, can do a lot of this stuff, but there's things that CS can't do. Do you want me to, work with you on hiring somebody in-house to do this? It might make sense.
Mm-hmm.
For example, so like trying to outsource social media, there's a media component. Do you have a photographer in-house? Do you have a content creator? The answers are no. But most of the companies I deal with, they can't put a team in-house. They'd go broke. There's not,
and they don't need to go buy $5,000 for the camera equipment when all they need is 100 photos, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And so, I feel good about being able to say, hey, this is something I'm a good fit for with CS, but I can tell you what the return is and we'll track that. And if we need to pull somebody else in, I think I was looking at a couple different sites that you recommended. Sure. Where they're vetted top 3% on the planet for what they do.
Yeah.
You throw that dollar amount out there. Like I had somebody reach out to me and say, hey, we're spending a couple hundred a month on a social media person to do all this stuff. I said, you might want to keep them.
Yeah. Right.
Because, yeah. So, I think that integrity, that, the honesty, the humility, you try to tie those core values that's already within the CS branding, I bring that to the business owner.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, your name's worth more than anything else, right? Your reputation.
Yeah, a couple bucks
Yeah.
that you spend that money, but that relationship capital, the respect that you get in the community, the word of mouth that comes as a result of you actually helping the people, it's worth way more than a kind of short term. And I totally agree with you. I think the agency owner does have an unfair advantage often as a fractional CMO because it can, there can be difficulty in getting execution as
Yes.
CMO, fractional CMO, whatever. As the CMO, to get someone to execute is tough sometimes, finding the right person. We're recording this right now in Q4. And the painful truth is a lot of people have a Q4 bonus, an end of year bonus. So they're looking to quit their job Jan 1. But if you want to hire them today in October, you're not going to get them because they're just going to wait 60 days. They're going to, go through the motions and then get their bonus and then maybe they'll be available. So if you're in that position where like hiring is difficult, but you have an agency, like that's a power move to be able to pull them in and then really serve the client.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think sometimes being in that category, the agency category. I think that from what I've seen, I definitely think that it's a huge trust position. But I like the extension of the CMO where you're getting in even farther to help
Yeah.
somebody along their path. And I am not worried about revenue for the agency aspect. I'm more about helping the customer. And by the way, I mean, our agency that we have, we're month to month. I don't like
Oh, great.
I don't like it when you come in, somebody signing a 1 year or a 3 year. What are we signing away a T1 line or a right? So yeah, no, we're month to month, and I've always kept it that way. I want to feel like I'm not giving them the value. Here, take your business somewhere else. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You got to do what's right for your business. So same way on this the engagement process. We want to deliver value.
Yep.
And I'm there with you, man. I appreciate. It's helpful to kind of go through this process. I've been having a good time at it.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And one thing I really love about you is when we chatted, you were like, "Hey, Casey, this seems to make a lot of sense." Like our first call, I remember it. I was traveling. You and I had a call, and you were like, I'm pretty sure I want to do this fractional CMO thing." And also, I think we talked on a Friday. You're like, and on Monday, I've got a sales call, and you and I jammed on that, and I think that was a pretty successful call for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think it is. I mean, everything is lined up perfectly. I think anybody starting your program, it's the execution of it. There's a traversal because I've been doing business a certain way for 14 years. And now I'm like, okay, I need to change my thinking, change my process and try to make them gel together. Right. I'll take some of the tools. I don't think your foresight was to say, use this exactly as is.
Yeah, no.
Works for you.
It's exactly as I used it, and everyone has kind of their own interpretation. And if you want to use it exactly like I do, you're welcome to. But for a lot of people, they want to put their magic on it. Everyone kind of comes with their own magic, right?
Sure. No, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking what's worked for me in my demographic here, and then I'm just tweaking it to make it work. And so obviously I got a lot to learn. And so, I think this first year is going to be very telling. I think in the beginning when we talked, I said, look, I'll be happy with pulling one client like this a quarter, right? Already working on 4 or 5 engagements right now.
Amazing.
I gotta learn a little bit faster, Casey. I'm kind of, what is it? What is it when they say it's controlled chaos?
Sure. Right.
Where I'm at right now, it's controlled chaos, but I'm having fun with it. And I think when you get up in the morning, that's what gets you going, right? You want to have fun with what you're doing.
It's getting back to that kind of joy of when we all got into marketing. We got into it because of something, and then we got caught up in the bullshit of it.
Sure. Right?
For some of us, we've like moved up to a manager role or something, and it's just like kind of a drag every day. You're not doing the fun stuff. You kind of want that guy to call in sick so that you have to jump in and save the day and build the campaign out. You want to have like that level of touch, maybe not actually building all the campaigns out, but you kind of want to be back into the joy of it. And I think as the fractional CMO or the CMO, you have this opportunity to support the team and really be there for it instead of like this disconnected kind of, businessy kind of way that I think a lot of us fall into.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the data all the time, and you've heard that statement, data doesn't lie.
Right.
But you could tweak it and make it tell a different story if you want. Right.
Totally.
I could look at SEO data and be like, great, that looks fantastic. How's the call count? How's your lead flow?
Right.
Oh, you got a position 0. That's fantastic. The traffic's looking good. The SERPs are looking good, but you're coding it.
What many leads? How many phone calls?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're creating those KPIs, it's outside of just the data. It's what are the results? And
Yeah.
one of the things I like having on my phone is the Google My Business stats, where it shows here's the activity and here's the, where you're popping up on search, but here's what the activity is. How many phone calls, how many web visitors, I love having that in my hand. So when I'm talking to a business owner without jumping into Google Analytics, I have that at my fingertips.
That's so cool.
But, as far as pulling it from all these other sources and, building a scorecard that's meaningful to the business owner outside of what we've traditionally done. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bright Local,
Yeah.
or, I'm sure you've heard of CX. You got all these tools with their analytics. It can be confusing to a business owner.
For sure. They don't care about that. Like, don't tell them about Screaming Frog. Right.
Exactly.
Tell them about how many calls.
Yeah. Yeah. When I'm talking to business owners there in their 60s, they're like, Wyatt, my phone's not ringing. What are you doing? It's like, well, here's what we're doing. And this is what we want to have, businesses aren't always that you have cyclical businesses that go up and down based on timing. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of learning. And I think that's what this program is encouraging, is to learn as much as you can about the business to help them in the best way that you can. Right.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, let's take this to a wrap. So if folks want to, find you or follow you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah. LinkedIn's a great way. I think, just go on LinkedIn and hit type in Wyatt Chambers. You'll see my LinkedIn profile. It's very rare that I turn somebody away, especially, I think the CMO folks are reaching out to me. I'll add them to that network. I definitely want to expand my influence through podcasting and doing some of those things that I really haven't had the time to do. But I need to spend more time sharing a lot of that. There's a lot of value from doing what we're doing right now, podcasting, right? So I got a lot to learn, Casey.
Oh, awesome, man. I'm excited to have you on Inside the CMO Accelerator. So they could find you at Wyatt Chambers on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Wyatt, this has been awesome. I love hearing your experience. I love how successful you've been at growing your agency and how you've decided to kind of get into bigger clients and kind of cleave your way in a really strategic way as a fractional CMO. It seems like it's bringing you back to a place of joy on some of this work to kind of get in and learn new stuff and be really sharp there to lead your team, ultimately to pass it on to other people to execute. I think that's really cool. So if you listen to this and you learned something, you laughed, I'd love for you to tell someone about this podcast.
Sure.
You can send them over to fractionalcmoshow.com. Anyone listening here, go to fractionalcmoshow.com. You can find the show notes. You can find a link to Wyatt's LinkedIn as well. And that's it. Thanks everyone for tuning into the Fractional CMO Show. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us for today's show. For more information and episodes, visit our site at fractionalcmoshow.com. Go ahead and punch that like and subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. It means a lot, at least to my mom.